Okay, let's get into this. Why don't you do the picture something for a second. You're holding a piece of rock. It's dark. It's from the Australian bush. And right there in the middle, there's this brilliant white shape of a leaf.
It's an incredible image.
And it's perfect. I mean, you can see every detail. It's been locked in that stone for about, 150 million years.
And usually, finding something that well preserved is a win. You think, great, we know exactly what this is.
Right. Case closed. We have the evidence. We have the photo. But this is where it starts to get really interesting. Because that rock, that perfect impression, it's a trap.
It's a trap that paleontologists have been falling into for, well, over 100 years. Just because you have the body doesn't mean you know who the victim is.
And that is the perfect setup for today's deep dive. We're looking at a botanical mystery. A species with a massive identity crisis.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a tree that's been dug up, named, then renamed, and then, questioned all over again. It can't seem to decide what it is.
And it's such a fascinating window into how science actually works. We think it's a straight line, but it's often a zigzag. We're looking at the records around a species called Agathis jurassica, or, depending on when your textbook was printed, Podozamites jurassica.
I love that. We have to use air quotes around a tree's name.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to figure out how this one plant can tell us about ancient climates, volcanoes, and why just putting a label on something from the past is so tricky.
Exactly. And to do that, we have to go back. Way back.
Okay, so set the scene for us. Where are we?
We're going to a place called the Talbragar fish beds. It's northwest of Sydney, Australia, out near the Talbragar River Valley.
I think I know the area. I'm picturing, dry Australian bush, lots of rocks, maybe forest hills nearby. It's very stark.
Today, yes. But we need to wind the clock back to the early to middle Jurassic. We're talking the Tithonian age.
Tithonian, okay. When is that, roughly?
About 150 million years ago. And the world map looks totally different. Australia is still stuck to Gondwana, the supercontinent. And this area isn't dry bushland. It's sitting under the influence of the Tethys Sea. The Talbragar site itself was actually a large, shallow, freshwater lake.
A lake. Okay, so forget the dust. We're picturing water.
A lot of water and a lot of life. The sources describe lush, woody vegetation all around it, essentially a dense forest. We'd probably call it a kauri pine forest.
That sounds nice. So a lake, ancient pines.
And it was teeming. It's called the fish beds for a reason. Huge fish populations, insects, and all this diverse flora along the shoreline. It was a warm, thriving world.
And the atmosphere was different too, right? More CO2.
Much more. And that high carbon dioxide level acted like a fertilizer, letting all that vegetation grow incredibly dense and fast.
So we have this Jurassic paradise. Warm, lush, full of life. But we're looking at fossils, and fossils usually mean something went very, very wrong.
They do, and this is where the story takes a dark turn. The preservation there is amazing, thousands of specimens, but that's because of what the sources call a large-scale event.
Which is science speak for a disaster.
A huge one. The evidence points to the lake being rapidly inundated with sediment. Volcanic ash, to be specific.
Whoa, so like a Pompeii, but for fish and trees.
That's a very apt analogy. The ash came down fast, burying everything. The fish, the leaves, the branches, it all got trapped.
And that's what preserved them so perfectly.
Exactly. Because it was so fast and because of the ash's chemistry, we get what are called siliceous impressions.
Siliceous impressions. Break that down for me.
Well, normally a leaf falls, it rots, but the ash sealed it all off from oxygen. So the organic matter decayed, but groundwater full of silica seeped in.
Silica. Like in sand or glass.
Basically, yeah. The silica filled in the space where the leaf was, leaving a perfect, stark white impression on the dark rock. It's almost like a photograph.
That's haunting this vibrant green world, and then, boom, ash. And everything is frozen in white.
It is. But for scientists, it's a gold mine. It's a snapshot of exactly what was living there at that very moment.
Which brings us to our mystery plant. The tree caught in the ash.
Right. So let's jump forward in time. It's 1889. The Talbragar fish beds are discovered.
And I'm guessing the paleontologists were pretty excited.
Oh, absolutely. A guy named R. Etheridge Jr. publishes the first findings that same year.
And this is where the identity crisis starts. What did he call our tree?
He identified it as Podozamites lanceolatus.
Podozamites lanceolatus. Sounds official. What does it mean?
Podozamites is a genus of extinct conifers, and lanceolatus just refers to the lance-shaped leaves. Long and pointy.
So he sees a long, skinny leaf and says, yep, that's a Podozamites. case closed.
For a while, yeah. I mean, you have to understand, they were just sorting through thousands of these things. It's easy to group by what you see on the surface.
Looks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Precisely. And in 1921, another scientist, Wacom, did a more detailed review. He upheld the name.
But he added a little note, didn't he?
He did. He said the flora was likely coniferous. He was getting close. He knew they were cone-bearing trees, but he didn't challenge the name itself.
So what was wrong with the name? Why wasn't it a Podozamites?
It's all in the details. The real Podozamites has pinnae, the leaflets, that grow from opposite sides of the stem. Think of it like a feather, sort of symmetrical.
Okay, opposite each other. Got it.
But the Talbragar fossils, they didn't really do that. But for almost 100 years, nobody really dug into it.
That's amazing. It just sat in the books for a century.
Until
1981.
when our detective arrives, Mary White.
Mary White. She does this intensive review of everything from Talbragar, and she starts noticing the little things everyone else had kind of glossed over.
Right. She got out the magnifying glass, so to speak.
She really did. She saw that the leaf sizes varied along the smaller branches, which suggested they were foliage spurs.
Foliage spurs. Is that like how pine needles grow in little bunches?
A similar idea, yes. A
Yeah.
specific kind of growth on short stems. And that is not how Podozamites grows.
Uh-huh. There's the tell.
And she kept going. She measured the leaves 4 to 7 centimeters long, lance-shaped, and she looked at their arrangement.
The arrangement, right. You said Podozamites were opposite. And these weren't. Mary White saw they had a spiral phyllotaxy. They grew in a spiral around the stem.
Okay, totally different structure.
Completely. Plus, she looked at the veins. Parallel veins, about 5 to 8 per leaf.
Wow, that's specific.
It has to be. But the real kicker, it wasn't just the leaves, it was the cones.
The reproductive parts.
Exactly. For decades, the cones found at the site were classified as a totally separate species, something called Agathis grandis.
So they thought they were just two different plants mixed together.
Yes. But Mary White looked at these cylindrical cones and realized, wait a minute, these belong to the leaves. She put them together.
That's a huge connection, connecting the fruit to the tree.
It was. And with the spiral leaves, the foliage spurs, and now the cones, she concluded it was much closer to the modern genus Agathis.
Agathis. Okay, for those of us who aren't botanists, what is that?
Think of the giant kauri pines in New Zealand and Australia. These massive ancient conifers, giants of the forest.
So she's saying this Jurassic fossil isn't some random extinct plant. It's a direct ancestor of the modern kauri.
That's exactly what she's saying, and she renames it Agathis jurassica.
Agathis jurassica. It has a good ring to it, and that feels like a big moment.
Yeah.
You're tracing this modern giant all the way back to the age of dinosaurs.
It was a massive aha moment. It rewrote the evolutionary history of that whole forest. It meant the kauri pines were incredibly ancient survivors.
I can hear the but in your voice. There's always a but.
There is always a but.
This is where it gets good. You think, okay, 1981, she does the work, case closed, we have our name.
You'd think. But science is skeptical. Fast forward to 1999. 2 researchers, Hill and Broadrib, are reviewing the whole fossil family, Araucariaceae.
That's the family these trees belong in.
Yes. And they hit a snag, a chronological snag.
What do you mean?
They looked at the whole fossil record globally, and they noticed that the oldest reliably identified Agathis fossils, the ones everyone agrees on, are from the Middle Eocene.
The Eocene. Okay. How far is that from the Jurassic?
It's a huge gap. The Jurassic is about 150 million years ago. The Middle Eocene is more like 40, maybe 50 million years ago.
Oh, that's a 100 million year gap in the fossil record.
It's enormous. It's a huge problem. If this thing from the Jurassic really is Agathis, where are all its descendants for the next 100 million years? There's just nothing.
It's like finding a Roman chariot and then a brand new Ferrari and saying one led directly to the other with no cars in between.
That's a great way to put it. You need the intermediate steps. Without them, it's just a wild coincidence.
So what did they do? Did they just say Mary White was wrong?
Well, they cast major doubt on it. They said, the visual match is there, but the timeline just doesn't work. It's suspicious.
So they took the name away again.
Not officially, but because of their work, other scientists started calling it Podozamites jurassica. It swung back.
Unbelievable. The poor tree is just getting tossed back and forth.
It gets even messier. As of 2017, the name Podozamites jurassica hadn't even been validly published.
What does that mean?
In taxonomy, there are strict rules for naming a species. You have to follow a process. And no one had actually done the official paperwork to make that name stick.
So it's in taxonomic limbo.
Completely. It's not the original Podozamites. It might be Agathis, but the timeline is a huge problem. And it might be a new kind of Podozamites, but nobody's officially named it that way.
That is just, it's absurd. We have thousands of perfect fossils, but we can't agree on what to call them.
And it matters. It's a really important debate about ancestry. Is this a direct grandfather of modern kauri pines? Or is it just a distant cousin that evolved to look very similar and then went extinct?
Convergent evolution.
Exactly, like a shark and a dolphin. They look similar, but they're not closely related at all. If this is a look-alike, then the kauri pine is a much younger species than Mary White thought.
And what about its range? It was mostly an Australian thing.
Primarily southern hemisphere, yes. This was Gondwana, remember. But the sources do mention some marginal expanses into the northern hemisphere.
It's a southern specialist then.
It seems so, yeah. Adapted to that warm, high CO2 world.
Okay, so let's recap this whole journey. We start in a Jurassic forest.
A forest that gets flash frozen by volcanic ash.
We dig it up in 1889 and call it Podozamites.
Then, in 1981, Mary White sees the spiral leaves and calls it Agathis.
And then the timeline police show up in 1999, point out the 100-million-year gap, and push it back towards Podozamites.
Where it sits today, kind of nameless.
It just goes to show you that science isn't this neat collection of facts. It's an argument. A long, slow argument.
It is, and that's what's so cool. The rock itself hasn't changed. The fossil is the same. But our understanding, our framework for interpreting it keeps shifting.
And I think that's what's so fun about these deep dives. You realize even something as solid as a rock is, it's up for debate.
Absolutely. And it's a good reminder to be humble. We're looking at a shadow of the past, literally, and trying to build an entire history from it.
So I guess the takeaway for you listening is next time you see a pine tree, you can wonder, is its family tree 50 million years old or 150 million?
And are there ghosts in that tree we just haven't found the right name for yet?
Exactly. I want to leave you with a final thought on this. We talked about those stark white impressions. The ash preserved the shape perfectly.
Nature's own photograph.
It is. But think about it this way. We have the photograph, it's perfectly clear, but we are still fighting over the caption underneath it. If Mary White was right, if it is Agathis, that means that genus survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. It survived the breakup of Gondwana. It survived ice ages. It would be one of the planet's ultimate survivors.
And if she was wrong?
If she was wrong,
Yeah.
then that Jurassic forest at Talbragar was filled with some other kind of giant that just happened to look exactly like a kauri pine and then vanished completely. So what was that tree?
The rock shows us the what, but it just refuses to tell us the who.
And that's the mystery that keeps us digging.
And that's where we'll leave it. Thanks for diving deep with us into the identity crisis of Agathis jurassica.
My pleasure. Always fun.
See you next time.